Hey, you guys, and welcome to my, at this point, what does the NFC North do prediction video for the rest of the year. I decided to do this simply because it's unprecedented the way that every team in this division is performing and winning. I still think, there are some unknowns, within the division, and different possible outcomes for the end of the year. I will say that if I were to pick a Super Bowl matchup, just, to humor you guys, that, of teams that I think are poised to go to the Super Bowl, the NFC, it would definitely be the Lions because I think they're performing the best in the NFC, like hands down. And then for the AFC, it would definitely be the Ravens, because they've been dominating what people have said are good teams. And I do think that they're good teams as well. But looking at this, I'm going to just go through it in in order from Bears, Vikings, Lions to my Packers. And I'm wearing my Packers gear so people understand that there probably is a little bit of bias in this, but I am going to try to do it as neutrally as possible. But starting off with the Bears, we have the Bears playing, obviously they've only played 6 games like everyone else in the division besides the Packers. Every team, obviously, in the division has had a bye, excluding the Packers at this point, which I clearly noted on the schedules. And I'm going to go over this. So, looking at this, the Bears are 4-2. They're technically last place in the division due to the fact that they didn't have a game this last week. And, they have 11 games remaining for, the 17 game schedule. At the Commanders next week, I was originally going to have them lose this game, but with the Jaden Daniels injury and his availability and doubt, I am going to give the win to the Bears. I think that, Marcus Mariota came in and he played well, but it's like he wasn't game planned for. And as we know, he's kind of a guy who's splashier. Against the Cardinals following week, I definitely think they win this game as well. I think the Cardinals have been off and on. Obviously, they beat a Chargers team that has had its own struggles going in. Against the Patriots, another sort of bad team. We've seen the Bears really dominate bad teams this year. The games I'm thinking about are Carolina and Jacksonville, of course, because Jacksonville just seemingly was not playing in that game. Next, we have a divisional game, and it is at Soldier Field against the division rival Packers. The first divisional game they will have played this year. Now, clearly, the thing about this game that you have to think about is that the Packers come off a bye after this. And obviously, the Packers are very healthy right now. Not very many notable injuries to the team. And obviously, that can change. But with the way that my Packers have been playing and the way that they've been pressuring QBs, the way that they've been getting after guys, I still remember when the Bears and Caleb Williams really struggled against the Texans, whom the Packers narrowly beat, but they beat the Texans. And they held CJ Stroud for under 100 yards. And I mean, the run defense was definitely kind of questionable, but they only really beat themselves up there. And I think that my Packers defense is going to start getting more recognition for being a second half juggernaut, where the only week we gave up, double digit points was week 1 in that slop fest down in Brazil. which, clearly if you look at that game, it's kind of an outlier at this point where it's like, oh, yeah, the first game with a new defense and a new D coordinator. But since then, the Packers haven't given up more than a touchdown, to any team, which I think, is impressive. I think even against bad teams, like they're usually able to put up points. But I fully expect my Packers to win this game, so it is an L for the Bears, whom I think, with an easier schedule and with the way that it's been, I think that obviously it's one of those things that they haven't really played like a truly tough opponent. Next week, they host the Vikings, another tough team. I think that Darnold is doing great. I think that the Vikings have obviously, they've owned the Bears in the past years. And I think that their defense is really good. And I think that, Flores is also going to bring the pressure. This, I kind of expect to be an L for the Bears. Same with against the Lions. I don't think, unless, it's some crazy game or the build up to this game is that the Bears get a lot better offensively, because granted Caleb's had 2 good back-to-back games, but to me they were just against teams that they gave up. They just weren't playing competitive football, and it's alarming to me when people boast that Caleb is, doing so well. I think they want him to be like Stroud, where it's like, oh, after one season, it's like, oh, this guy is a bona fide baller, and we don't have to worry about QB for 15 years. Now we're moving on to the Niners. The Niners, I actually do think the Bears beat them. The Niners are so incredibly banged up that I think that, with Purdy throwing picks and that sort of game, and their injuries that they've had, even if they get, Debo fully healthy from what he has, even if they get, even McCaffrey back, I think that the rust is going to have to be really battered off for them to operate the way that they were last year. Like last year was peak Niners as far as I'm concerned, and it's going to be hard to top that. And the Bears do have a good defense. I just don't think that they have a defense that is ready for the dominance and the way that they're going to pressure Williams. And the Niners, they might be able to pressure him with their defense, but I do think that their offense just is so decrepit that the Niners are going to have a tough time scoring. Kind of like how they were pummeled by, or not really pummeled, but beat by the Chiefs yesterday. So I expect the Niners to, lose that game. They're already, they're pretty battered up right now. And now the second game against the Vikings, I expect this to be an L as well. I think you look at this game and, that sort of thing, and I just don't see the Vikings really losing to them. Maybe they learned some things about themselves from the first game, but I don't think that Caleb's going to be able to go into Minnesota and beat the Vikings, to be honest with you. People might think I'm crazy that, oh, hey, yeah, but the way that Caleb's played when he's actually had pressure put on him just doesn't convince me that it's just going to be gone after he's had a couple of easy games where he ultimately wasn't pressured that much, which I think it is his weakness, is that he does not handle pressure well. And until I see him do that, I'm going to say that, yeah, he's not going to win those games. And this is just purely from what I've seen and what I think. I don't think I think he has a shot to be good, but I think he needs to play some real competition to really know what the Bears have in Caleb Williams. Now, the Lions, they host them. I'll say this, at this point, looking at this, they obviously have 4 wins to 4 losses. So they're an 8-6 team. I think that they lose to the Lions hosting them. I think the Lions just have a really good road team. I think that they're going to really they're going to test again, the Bears defense, and obviously with Gibbs and Montgomery and a solid run game, they could really hush that crowd in Chicago. Versus the Seahawks, I do actually expect them to win this game. I think that they win this game, and I think that, goodness, I think, I think that they win against the Seahawks, hosting them. I think it's going to be cold. I think it's going to be hard for the Seahawks. The Seahawks who have had an inconsistent rushing attack will have to pass a lot, which I think plays into the Bears, to be honest with you. And then at the Packers, at Lambeau, final week of the season, I'm going to say they lose this. I think the Packers at this point, unless, something crazy happens within the division and they don't have to play starters or something, which I don't imagine will happen, I think that they lose this game. And it's just, to me, I just think that the Bears don't really, until we haven't seen them in a divisional game. That is why I'm kind of not giving them the benefit of the doubt. I feel like, the rest of the division, albeit the Packers have only played the Vikings in a game where it's like, man, it was crazy bad at the beginning, crazy ending, and the Packers showed that they can compete with anybody. And I think the offense is starting to show that, like, yeah, this is a team that, barring shooting themselves in the foot, they can put up a lot of points and score. And there's a lot of chemistry there. Moving on to the Vikings. We have the Vikings here, and they are obviously playing the Rams this week on Thursday night. Sorry, let me go back to this. So obviously, if we take what we have here, we have the Bears at 4-2 right now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. So they would be 9-8 essentially if it played out like this. And I honestly feel like that is kind of where they are at. Good defense, but an offense, but an offense that, an offense to me that, needs to prove it can do it against better defenses. And that's my opinion. The Vikings at 5-1 right now. Their only loss being against the Lions this last week. We look at them, and I definitely think that they beat the Rams. Word on the street is that the Rams are shopping Cooper Kupp, which I think is kind of crazy, but it's like you have Puka Nacua, who can be your guy. The Rams, I'm definitely saying, is a W. Colts, don't think much needs to be said here. W. Jaguars, W. Titans, W. At the Bears, like I said, I think this is a W. Cardinals, W. Falcons. This is probably one of the few that I would say, could potentially be a loss for them. But I still believe in the Vikings. I still believe in Flores really hitting Kirk's buttons, assuming he's still, healthy and playing. And I think that the Vikings win this. I think they win that game. Bears, like I said, it's definitely a win, probably. At the Seahawks, I would say a W as well. Now, in the second meeting against my Packers, I do actually think that this is an L for them. It kind of reminds me of last year. They pummeled us, but we nearly came back this year somehow. Even though it's like last year, the first game that we played at Lambeau, they pummeled us and it wasn't even close. We go in and we handle them, later in the season when it was like must win time and the team was just playing a lot better. And then at the Lions, I expect this to also be a loss. So they get 2 losses, and then all the rest of these look like pretty easy games to me. The only ones that I would really say maybe aren't, guaranteed wins would maybe be Bears, maybe Falcons. So it's like you play the Bears twice, but you look at this, and I mean, if I was being, a little bit nicer to the Bears, I would probably say one of these are a win for the Bears. And I mean, the tricky part about it is that the Bears, like I said, inexperienced. They haven't played a divisional game against, what I would say is obviously the top division in the league, but some of the top talent with how the whole division is playing. But the Bears are obviously kind of an unknown. If people tell me that I'm crazy or I'm, whatever else, sure, maybe Caleb Williams is the next great, number 18 or something. But he hasn't played against, good teams. And sometimes you are a regular season wonder, like Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins, and then you're a nobody in the postseason. And it's like, we just don't know. As far as I'm concerned, people are too quick to jump the gun. But it's like, you look at this, and it's like the Vikings get to go to the Bears early, where they're going to only have had a taste of one divisional opponent and one, few maybe good teams this year. And then they play the Vikings, who, have played very solid football this year and won some close games that weren't even pretty, but they won it by being, tough defensively and not throwing the game away, which to me, the Bears have gotten, handed at least one win because of the other team throwing it away essentially this year, at least in the Titans in week 1. But you look at this, and obviously only 2 L's on here. It might seem crazy to say, but obviously with 3 total losses, with 3 total losses, you're talking about a 14-win season, which, sounds ridiculous, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, barring some crazy injuries or whatever to the Vikings, I think that they're a team that cooks. And they're going to get better as the season goes on. And O'Connell's a brilliant head coach. They've had some offensive woes, but I think that they have the talent, they have the weapons. They haven't even had everybody offensively. They need Hawkinson back, to be honest, but he's going to come back and they're going to be really good, but they've been able to win games without him. So they're going to be even better. Now, moving on to the Lions. We have a team, obviously, that is, they're poised to do really, really well this year. I feel like looking at this, there's obviously a lot of optimism with them. Montgomery, it looked to me like he, might have been hurt bad, but it's not that bad. And that sort of thing. So they're obviously, they're going to beat the Titans as far as I'm concerned. My Packers, I'm also going to say they're going to win. Unless my Packers can really get rid of the mistakes, which, they only have, one more week before, we play the Lions. Like, it is coming. And it's one of those things that I really would have, if we had like 3 complete weeks where it's like we beat the Cardinals handily, we beat the Texans, if we didn't have the mistakes but still had like the same score, I would have been happy. I'm still happy we won, don't get me wrong, but it's like we were shooting ourselves in the foot quite a bit If you do that against a team like the Lions, they're going to score the living heck out of your team more than likely. Even with how well the defense has been performing, the Lions just have a crazy offense, and a great offensive coordinator. So I'm definitely saying yeah, my Packers probably lose the first matchup, of the year at the Texans. The Texans, they're more than likely going to have Nico Collins back, which will be a huge boost for them. But I think, the way that the Texans have been playing, it's been kind of rocky this year. I still believe Stroud is a good QB. He's not going to force it, and he's going to get, potentially yards. But as we saw last week, there's ways to really limit him and keep, make him under duress, because their O-line, besides Laramie Tunsil, to me, is, kind of shoddy. So I'm going to give the win to the Lions with that. Moving on, we have the Jaguars. I would say another win there. Colts, a win. Bears, we have another win, obviously, like I said, and that sort of thing, and they're hosting the Bears. Like I said, it's going to be tough. Packers, I think that, this one is an L. I think my Packers, there's kind of a history there now, and there's kind of a history, and obviously, they're hosting here, but the Packers, I mean, at that point, they'll be off a couple, they'll be off of a few weeks rest. They'll have had, somewhat easier games, in my opinions, with, I hate to say the Niners are easy, but I think that, the way that they've been playing in their offense and the mistakes, I just can't see them, they're not as solid of a team this year, This is, and that sort of thing. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Bills. The Bills are kind of a wild card team. Which Bills are we going to get? Are they going to be a lot better? I think that they did kind of prove that they needed Amari Cooper and they have a good receiving threat, but they're kind of one of those wild cards. Are they going to continue to do really well with Cooper and, their defense to perform? And, I think that the Bills are a very well coached team. I still think that, they're going to the Lions. I think that the Lions win this game. Like I said earlier, they go and they beat the Bears at home. And then they have the Niners. The Niners, I definitely say that they win here. And then they beat, the Vikings the final week of the season. And with that, there's obviously only one loss on here, and it's to my Packers. I'm kind of giving my Packers the benefit of the doubt just because we're familiar with the Lions, and we've been playing really good defense. So I think we split that matchup. And so it's the Lions, having a 15-2 season, I think is kind of, would be kind of nuts. But, obviously, looking at this, I just, not a lot of these teams scream, oh, yeah, we can go and we can compete against the Lions. They're the hottest team right now, which obviously kind of goes into factoring whether this team continues to win and go out. And I mean, who knows? They could hit a doldrum or something, but I just don't see it. They look like a great offense, and it's a treat, if you're a fan of offense, to watch the Lions. And I mean, kudos to them. They deserve it. They are a very well coached and competitive homegrown team. Even as a Packers fan, I can appreciate what they're doing in Detroit. And I've said that for, a few years now. And much respect to them. Now going to my Packers. Obviously, I said we beat the Jaguars, and then we lose to the Lions. I think the Jaguars, they beat New England this last weekend, but they're really a team, that it's are they for real? They beat a sloppy team, a bottom 5 team in the Patriots, even though I like some of the things that the Patriots are doing. So going into the bye, you are 6-3. I think you got to feel pretty good about that as a Packers fan, especially considering how it was last year. And then afterwards, we are at the Bears. Like I said earlier, I think we beat them here. We're coming off some rest. Maybe LaFleur can, kind of, come up with some better, I wouldn't say better game plans. I think the game plans have been solid, but he can come up with more ways to execute and that sort of thing. And he can really be ready for the Bears, and that sort of thing. And I think Halfley is going to be ready for Caleb Williams against the Niners. Many people were saying this was a loss for us. I don't think many people would really say that right now. The Niners are looking, it's rough, type of thing. And I'm going to give the Packers the win here. Dolphins at Lambeau late in the season. It's probably going to be cold more than likely. And even if it isn't, the Dolphins are not very good and like even moderate cold. It's a win. The Lions here. Like I said earlier, I think that we split the series. I think that the Packers are one of the better teams equipped to handle the Lions. Obviously, the offense really has to click and get going. But I think at this point, the team is going to be, they're only going to be a few weeks removed from having, or like 4 weeks removed from having played them before. And it's going to be that kind of go time. And that, and I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to be just like last year, but I think that Love is going to get better going later into the season and that sort of thing. He's going to be a bit more comfortable, a bit less risque. Granted, he hasn't been like as risque as last year or as prone to throwing interceptions, even though he has, he's tied for the most with Mahomes or something. But, I think that they can beat the Lions, one and split it like they did last year. Seahawks, I think that my team wins. I think we get after Geno quite a bit. The Seahawks, I just don't see them doing well later in the season for whatever reason. I feel like, they've already had a bunch of injuries. I feel like they could have more. They have a lot of injury prone guys, I feel like, especially on that defense. And they haven't been able to stop the run. And if I know, late season football, the run's going to be that much crazier. Saints at home, I'm going to say a W. At the Vikings, I'm going to say, like I said earlier, that it's going to be a loss for the Vikings. And then Bears final week of the season, like I said, but with looking at this, obviously, it'd be kind of nuts if it played out like this. But the Bears, it's a win to me. And it's like, you look at this and it's like, obviously a team winning every single game, to finish out a season is kind of tough. But like I said, it's kind of hypothetical. And I think that, with how healthy the Packers are, it just has more reason for them to be playing better late season football where that chemistry keeps growing, and that sort of thing. And I think, the late bye is going to help for, LaFleur to really like sort out some things, the team to like recharge their batteries. And it's a young football team. So they're going to be bringing the energy late season. But if you guys have any comments or games you think or any differences here, I would love to hear it in the comments. Obviously, let me update this. My Packers look like they would be finishing 14-3 alongside the Vikings, and then at which point it would be like a tiebreaker kind of scenario. And, I'm going to go and look at like the standings, the NFC standings right now and see it. Cause I know that as of right now, you look at, the NFC standings and the whole division of the NFC North would be in the playoffs, with the Buccaneers missing it at 4-3, with, You know, the Seahawks being the only team in their division making it at 4-3. And then the Commanders making it, you know, at 5-2. And the Eagles missing it, who are 4-2 right now. So obviously crazy to say. You know, obviously my Packers have kind of a weak advantage on the Eagles, but it's like, to me, you look at the, and obviously, you know, obviously the Eagles, you know, could hold a tiebreaker over the Packers type of thing, but with the way that they've been playing and their shaky performance, I mean, you know, it's crazy for me to say, but I honestly do think that this whole division could make the playoffs. And, you know, the Bears, like I said, you know, 9-8, but I'm giving them a lot of losses. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they split with like my Packers, you know, giving them 10 wins and my Packers 12 wins, you know, and it's like, obviously, you know, I think that my Packers, you know, with the way the defense has been playing, if the offense can really get, you know, going and consistent, I think they're going to be a crazy hard team to beat. Same with the Lions. The Lions just beat a good Vikings team that was one of two teams that were undefeated. And I mean, it wasn't like it was a walkthrough. So it's like the Vikings are good, but it's a crazy year. People were saying it before the year that it could be a crazy year in the NFC North. I don't think anyone thought it would be this crazy. And I definitely didn't. And I wouldn't say it's given me a lot of anxiety because there's still a lot of football to be played. But it's like, if the Lions ultimately don't deter from like how they've been playing, they are going to be the team to beat come postseason. And they're going to have home field advantage, which who wants to go to Detroit, you know? And those fans who are, I mean, a crazy special fan group. But like I was saying, if you like the video, or if you know, like this kind of content, you want to see me maybe do another division, or, you know, and that sort of thing, I do kind of want to keep this kind of thing to like a division basis type of thing, you know. Or if you want me to do a specific team and go a little bit more in depth, you know, I could do that if you wanted to comment me and do a video on that. But as of right now, you know, the NFC North is looking obviously like a juggernaut division and the best division in football, you know, no doubt. But with that being said, leave a like, comment, you know, share any opinion you may have, and, you know, subscribe if you want to see more NFL content. But I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.